Thank everybody for coming tonight. I'm going to call the August 22nd, 22 City Council meeting to order. Could you please stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we adopt the agenda, I'd like to add item number H under the consent agenda, supplemental payment summary.
I'll make a motion to accept tonight's agenda, adopt tonight's agenda with the supplemental.
Second.
Motion made second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. Presentations, Anoka County Sheriff's Department, Derek Peters.
Good evening, Council. It's hard to believe it's already August, end of the summer
It's
almost.
almost September.
I
That's
know.
horrible.
I know it. July had a total of 423 calls for service, which was down approximately 20 calls from the previous month of June. Deputies responded to 1 burglary, 3 thefts, 1 assault, and 1 damage to property call. Deputies made a total of 13 custodial arrests for miscellaneous traffic violations, and our traffic enforcement efforts resulted in the issuance of 37 traffic citations, which is the highest monthly total this year to date. Some of our notable calls that we've handled this past month include a fleeing in a motor vehicle incident on July 12th of 2022 at 11:46 hours. Deputy O'Connor and his canine partner Eli were dispatched to a suspicious vehicle in the area of Greenbook Drive and 183rd Avenue Northeast. The vehicle was reported to have been occupied by 2 people. As our deputy was arriving in the area, he located the vehicle speeding through the area traveling 40 miles per hour in a 30 mile per hour zone. Deputy O'Connor turned around and tried to stop the vehicle for the speed violation. The vehicle subsequently did stop, but as he approached the vehicle on foot to make contact with the driver, the vehicle took off at a high rate of speed. Due to the apparent safety issues that this vehicle would have likely caused for other motorists if we had continued with that pursuit, he made the decision to discontinue trying to stop that particular vehicle. Fortunately, he was later able to identify the driver, and we did charge this person out of custody for fleeing in a motor vehicle and miscellaneous other violations. On July 17th at 16:18 hours, Deputy Lynch was dispatched to the Vikings Meadows Golf Course bar for an unruly patron. It was reported that the suspect was yelling and making threats inside of the business. On arrival, deputies made contact with a male who was sitting on the ground smoking a cigarette. The male was trespassed at the request of golf course staff. Deputy Lynch conducted an investigation on his own into the male's previous behavior and ultimately made the decision to place him under arrest for disorderly conduct and made the decision to transport him to jail. While en route to jail, the male threatened deputies and tried to spit on our detention staff. The male was ultimately cited for disorderly conduct and left in the care of our personnel at the jail. On July 19th, Deputy Quam stopped a vehicle on Highway 65 at 237th Avenue for recognizing the driver as someone that he personally knew didn't have a valid driver's license. Deputy Quam confirmed with the driver that he in fact didn't have a driver's license and placed him under arrest for driving while canceled and inimical to public safety. The male was transported to jail and released to our staff. And finally, on July 19th at approximately 8:01 p.m., Deputy Brownfield was dispatched to a business off of Sims Road and Van Buren Street in the city of East Bethel on a report of an impaired driver that had pulled into the parking lot. A concerned motorist had reported this vehicle, advising that it had been seen swerving all over the road. As Deputy Brownfield was arriving in the area, he witnessed the vehicle pulling out onto Sims Road, traveling across Highway 65. Deputy Brownfield followed this vehicle for a short distance and noted that the vehicle was unable to properly maintain its own lane of travel. Deputy Brownfield stopped the vehicle and spoke to the driver, who smelled of an alcoholic beverage and was exhibiting numerous signs of impairment. The driver denied having consumed any alcohol prior to driving. Deputy Brownfield asked the driver to step out and perform standardized field sobriety testing. The driver did this, but subsequently failed. Deputy Brownfield obtained a preliminary breath test reading from the driver, which indicated an initial blood alcohol concentration of 0.22. The driver was placed under arrest and transported to the sheriff's office, where they submitted to an evidentiary breath test, which confirmed a recorded blood alcohol concentration of 0.22. The driver was transported and booked at the Anoka County Jail for second-degree DWI. So, as a good reminder for everybody, if you see anything odd out on our streets or on our roadways, please give us a call. We physically respond to all of these calls and document our observations, whether or not we find the vehicle. So please continue to do that. We take a lot of pride in partnering with our communities, telling us where we need to go so that we can do what needs to be done to maintain safety in our communities. So we've also been seeing a string of nighttime thefts of property and vehicles that are left unsecured. That's kind of a yearly theme. So especially in the summer months here, as the summer again winds down and we enter the fall months, please make sure that any property or vehicles are secured. And I would also suggest a well-lit area, possibly cameras and things. If those are available to you, those are good options that we use to follow up on in our investigations. You really never know. If you see something suspicious, call us. You never know when that little tidbit of information that we record and document that could lead to a big break in some of these other cases that we still have pending. So, and then lastly, as mentioned before, we continue to have traffic issues on our roadways. People are driving too fast, they're not obeying the semaphores. We've been out there doing some saturation details during the rush hour traffic. In the mornings particularly, but I've noticed that our folks have been out there in the evening hours as well, as time allows. So please slow down and understand, again, if you're stopped, you'll be significantly delayed longer than you would have had you'd simply stop for that yellow light. If you thought it was yellow, brake, slow down, try and stop for that red. So thank you again for allowing me to provide a quick update regarding last month's activities, and I'll stand for questions.
Any questions from the council?
I do have one. I have had over the years heard concerns from residents of people speeding through neighborhoods. And I know that the sheriff's department will come out and deal with that, but how should a resident contact the sheriff's department to get services?
Yeah, certainly, a good question. Dial 911. We have a non-emergency number that's answered by the same dispatcher, so it doesn't really matter. 911 is really easy to remember, so just dial 911. Although it's not an emergency, we take it very seriously. And then ask to speak to a deputy. Physically ask and say, I'd like to speak with a deputy, please. Don't just call in and say, hey, there's a vehicle speeding by, and hang up. I would recommend speaking with that deputy, getting their name, badge number, saying, hey, these are my concerns. You work in our city, outline exactly what the problem is. All of our folks are very concerned about these issues because we've been seeing them all over in our communities. And I think it's an age-old problem, but one that we need to continue to fight. That's how we maintain safety, and certainly it starts at the smallest level. So again, I think it kind of goes back to just calling 911, ask to speak to somebody, and we will document your concerns.
Derek,
Exactly.
if you don't mind, one of the policies we've done in the past to do this is they call City Hall and request speeding in a certain neighborhood, and then I call you and arrange it. That way we can document it on our side too.
Yep.
So that when we get these request callbacks saying, have you seen anybody else that's scheduled, they were out there.
Yep.
So we don't mind doing that either.
Well, thank you for that point of clarification. That works as well. We have a great working relationship with the city here, so certainly if you see, any other issues that you want to report to the city, Jack will certainly let me know, and we'll get somebody out there to deal with those issues.
I've got two calls this weekend about four-wheelers up in the north end of town. What is the age? Because these two concerned people said these kids were 8, 9 years old.
Yep, you gotta have a driver's license.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. I told them to call Anoka County
Yep,
Sheriff, so.
give us a call. There's some ins and outs with that regarding ATV safety certificates and things of that nature, but I mean, the way I look at it, you gotta have a driver's license. And
Okay.
I don't have the laws directly in front of me, but that's the way I always played it, Make sure that you have a license, because then you understand the rules of the road.
Okay.
Okay, I have a comment and a question. My comment is thank you for the 65 surveillance at that light, because people are actually stopping, and I'm not so nervous anymore. And then my question is, reading your report, some of them say booked, others say released. So if they're released, are they not booked and put in jail, or or is that just different verbiage?
Good question. Booked is when we actually process somebody for an arrest. So that means we physically bring them to the jail. They get their picture taken and their fingerprints taken as well. That's what booked means. And then usually, depending on the crime, sometimes to make sure that we have room for the people that need to stay in jail, some people are booked and released when they get a court date.
Okay, and if it's just released, that means they're not booked at all and they're not charged, or?
No, it means that they're seen at our jail and they are booked. And then if they're released, they still have to answer for what's alleged to have occurred. They're just not being physically housed in our jail
Got
to
it.
save room. It's really dependent on the level of offense that they were taken in for.
Got it, thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Karen?
Back on the ATVs, because I live on Gopher Drive, which is County Road, there's a lot of four-wheelers, including some that drove right down the street itself, and they were kids, but they, by the time they get down the driveway, they're gone. What kind of information would I really need to capture so that something might follow them out?
Yeah, good question. I think if you know who they are, if you know who they are, that would be a good tidbit of information for us to know because, like I said, we physically drive out to these locations, check for any violations, and then we'll follow up as need be, whether that's at the house. And we usually start with a verbal warning. If we can handle it civilly, that's what we'll do. But if we continue to get those continuous complaints to those problem areas, we'll saturate those areas as well, and then make sure people are well aware of what our intentions are if in fact you're caught on an ATV in violation of state law.
I mean, because they can ride in the ditch, just not on the street.
Correct. And I believe that's a city ordinance, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, thanks, Derek.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
Thank you.
Next is fire department report, the fire chief, Mark Ducharme.
Mr. Ducharme, is this our last meeting with you?
No, you get to see me once more,
Once more.
so, in September. Anyway, here is the fire report for July of 2022. We responded to 74 calls. We ended the month with 526 calls. We're about 10% higher than a year ago at this time. Currently, interestingly enough, we're at about 575 calls. So we're approaching, of course, 600, and we probably are going to come pretty close to 900 calls for the end of the year. But we did have 60 medicals that we responded to. We actually had 4 crashes within the city limits that we responded to, even though it says 5. That fifth one was actually a mutual aid call to Linwood, where they had a stolen vehicle that another car hit on. We had 1 alarm, only had 1 burning complaint that we took a look at, so I appreciate that. And we'll talk about burning again here. And we responded to 3 fires and then, of course, 3 mutual aids. So we're getting to the time of year where we're going to start cleaning up our yards and things like that. We were just talking about the summer's going away pretty quick. State fair is coming. So remember, we cannot burn yard waste. That's not part of the definition of a recreational fire. And if you're going to need to burn a pile or a running fire or something like that, you need a permit. You can get a pile burn permit from City Hall here. And if you need, some people actually need to burn off fields. If you're going to do that, you have to go to the DNR. And there's a lot that you have to do to get that type of a permit. So all in all this year, I think we've done better on illegal burning, but we're getting to that time of year where the leaves are going to start falling, and we got to keep that in mind. And like I always say, is that, if you're going to have a recreational fire, just talk to your neighbors maybe first, so they have a chance to close their windows and things like that. With all the rain we're having, we did have a grass fire today that actually moved pretty quickly and moved into a swamp. So, and that was That was caused by somebody who had a recreational fire going and it got away from them. So, let's all be careful out there. Any questions?
I was just gonna ask you, well, how's the fire conditions with all the rain that we just had?
Yeah, still got that brown stuff there. Now it's underneath where I always say the green stuff has to get higher than the brown stuff. Well, it's the brown stuff that's burning underneath the green stuff, so.
It's never gonna get the right way
Yeah,
this year.
I know. So, any other questions? I can
Questions
answer?
from the audience?
All right,
Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chief.
5.0,
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. I would like to pull item E as in Edward.
One second.
motion made, second, discussion.
I'd like to pull item B and F and G.
B, F, and G?
Yes.
B, F, and G. To the remaining items on the consent, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item B.
Item B, I wasn't at that meeting, so I just want to abstain.
I'll make a motion to approve item B.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item B approved. Item E.
Just for the public's knowledge, Jack, how did this come in at the 3%? This is the first one we've done at the 3% as compared to previous.
This is the second one. We did one back in April for 2021.
Okay,
This is for 2022 from January through the end of May.
and
This is
how
the-
did it compare with the old way of doing it?
It compared, this is probably, they're paying probably about 60% less.
Okay, they're paying 60% less.
That's correct.
All right, that's what those people need to know.
So they're getting a refund.
That's correct.
Our businesses are paying 60% less in gambling
Yes.
tax. Very good, very good. I'll make a motion to approve item E.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. E is approved. Item F.
All right, I'm gonna just bring item F and G together because my question is the same for those. And that is, are there any planned city events for these celebrations, domestic violence awareness or proclaiming Constitution Week? And could there be? I mean, is there a way or is it too late?
Not at the city level, there isn't, and I don't believe there is at the county level. They're just in recognition of those important dates. Whether we wanted to do something locally to acknowledge them further, that's up to the city council.
Great. Okay, with that, I will make a motion to approve items F and G together.
Second.
Motion made to approve item F and G. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? F and G approved. No new business, department reports. Item G1, 2023 budget and levy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Based on inputs from the Personnel Committee, Finance Committee, department heads, and City Council, the draft 2023 budget was prepared and discussed at the July 5th, 2022, and August 1st, 2022 City Council work meetings. Staff and council identified 3 areas that could potentially be used in order to decrease the 2023 levy. The first was a reduction of the law enforcement contract. Anoka County has provided the city with 3 different options for service in 2023, which include 20 hours of CSO service, which is what's under the current contract, at a cost of $1,264,756, or a reduction of CSO hours to 8 hours, which would reduce the contract to $1,248,798, or the elimination of the CSO service for 2023 at a cost of $1,217,878. The total savings from 20 hours to 0 is $46,000. The other portion of the cuts that could be utilized are the city vacation sick leave sellback. That's an option that city staff, if they accumulate more than the allowed allotment of vacation leave, they can sell it back and get paid for that. It's been discussed at the council level, and we have really said this is something that was kind of exacerbated by COVID, but it's no longer sustainable. So staff has no objections to eliminating this provision, and this would be an estimated savings of $33,000 in the 2023 budget. And the third item would be to use a portion of the general fund balance to pay down part of the fund balance and its impact on the reduction of the 23 budget. There are 4 scenarios in your attachments that outline these. The first is no use of the fund balance and 8 hours of CSO service as part of the contract, which would give an overall levy increase of 3.7%. The second option is use of $72,500 of the fund balance to be applied to the levy for 2023 and 8 hours of CSO service. This would reduce the levy increase from 3.7 to 2.6. Attachment 3 is the preliminary budget levy summary of using the $72,500 of fund balance and 0 hours of the CSO service, which would reduce the levy increase to 2.1, or the use of $145,000 of fund balance and 8 hours of CSO overall levy, which would decrease the levy to 1.4%. I think there's 2 questions we need to answer tonight: is the sheriff's contract, and what do we really want to do with the CSO service? And the second question is, what do we want to do to use fund balance to apply to a levy decrease for 2023?
Well, I'll start. I started down the CSO route the last time, and we still don't have definitive answers on how much time we used or how much CSO time we used. And the further I looked into it, the more concerned I got, because I also discovered that Anoka County Sheriff has a really tough time fulfilling the 20 hours of CSO that we need every week. There's been scheduling conflicts. There's been some documents that were scheduled to be delivered in a morning and they didn't get delivered till an afternoon. The packets are the big thing, and quite frankly, I think we're all adult enough that either we can take them electronically, or if you do want them printed, I have no problem with that. Just come in and get them, or print whatever pages you want. That is a big, excuse the terminology, but that is a big time suck for the CSO. All the other things that the CSO does, I think there are places that that time can be moved to and still be effective. I am going to say that I would like to see the CSO hours go away for a year. That's $46,000. That is a big chunk of money in our budget. And let's try it for a year. We're not affecting public safety at all. The functions that the CSO does are basically administrative functions. They don't show up out on the street. They may assist, but they can't do public safety type items. So I would like to try and eliminate the CSO for a year and take a look at it again at the end of next year and see where we're at, and go from there. Since I brought the CSO up first, that'll be my part.
I actually think that's a good idea. I actually was picking up my packet for a long time, and then all of a sudden they just started showing up at my house, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't ask for them. They just started showing up. So if they show up, I'm not going to come up here and pick
Yeah, I think if you don't pick them up by Friday at a certain time, they deliver them. So I think that's what the thing was.
They deliver them sometimes on Thursday too, but they just started showing up. So I think that I just thought, okay, fine. So I didn't, but they would text me or call me and say, your packet's ready, and I'd buzz right on up here.
One, I have to agree with you. I like the 0 CSO. I've talked to everybody in the office as far as both ends, and they said they don't have any issues. If there's a code enforcement citation, they said they can get a deputy to take it out. So I'm on board with the 0 for 1 year and see how it goes.
Absolutely.
I got no issues.
No, well, that
Right.
was way too easy, I guess.
Yeah.
The first part of it we figured out.
Do you,
Now
uh,
the second part.
You need a motion on this one?
We can do it all together if you'd
Okay,
like to,
okay.
and either pick one of those scenarios or create a new one.
Okay.
Well, on using a portion of the general fund balance, I would be in support of, call it option 3 as it's laid out, using 72,500, or I think when we talked in our work meeting, we had one scenario where it's up to 100,000. I would be in favor of using anywhere between that range. I don't want to go over 100,000 and use the whole 145,000 surplus. I want to leave some cushion there just in case.
Well, and I also think a 2% levy is a very good levy under consideration of what's going on in the rest of the state. I mean, St. Paul just came out with 15.35, or excuse the decimals, I forget, but 15% levy. That is going to put people out of business. And I think 2% is doable, it's reasonable in the type of economy that we're in currently. And that would be using 72,000, which is half of it. And that would give us the cushion to go into next year and the unknown.
I agree. I like the 72,000. You know, if you go to the 145, we're gonna, without even a budget for 2024, you're gonna have to increase the levy 2.3%. And that's with nothing else on there, you know, police contract and public works. So I don't wanna, you know, whoever's on here, I don't wanna stick them with a 2.3 levy with no work at all. So I'm in favor of attachment 3.
Suzanne?
Oh, absolutely, and I saw this I watched the work meeting, and I agreed with this issue too. Although I am going to say I'm not in favor of any levy right now that are not voted on by the residents, but I am in favor of this solution.
All right. Well, then I'll make a motion that we eliminate the CSO hours at a saving of $46,000 and use $72,000 of the general levy fund, which is attachment 3. Is that right?
Correct.
Attachment 3.
And vacation sellback.
And what?
Yeah,
Oh, the vacation sellback. I think we've already discussed that, yes.
And the vacation sellback's already built into that.
Already built in.
So
Okay.
if you could, just add that to use to prepare the draft 2023 budget for presentation at the September 12th meeting.
To use as the draft budget for the presentation at the September 12th city council meeting.
I'll second.
Motion made, second discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Item G2, the September work meeting.
Thank you, Tim. Our monthly work meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, September 6, 2022 at 7 p.m. The following items are recommended for discussion. We have on here the draft 2023 preliminary budget final review. We can schedule that for that meeting for any final comments, or we can leave it off, whatever your preference is. We have a draft copy of the hemp-based edible THC ordinance, which we'd like to discuss. I would like to appraise you of the EDA broadband grant program recommendations from the EDA. I would like to remove that live barn contract for the ice arena from the work meeting and have it on the September 12th meeting. And I would like to add approval of that vacation sick leave sellback policy change at the work meeting for us to review and present at the September 12th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for the September work meeting as stated.
I'll second.
Motion made, second discussion. Jack, I'd like to add one more thing, so I'll amend it. I'd like to have the packets for commissions and councils discussed, because I know, you know, there's other commissions out there that have their packets delivered, so if we could put that on there. And I'll amend the motion to include packets for commission and council.
I'll second that.
Motion made, second discussion.
Jack, what is the live barn
Thank you, I was gonna ask that.
for ice arena?
The live barn is a way to live stream video activities in the arena. There's a contract with the vendor that the city attorney has reviewed and has some issues on. We've submitted that to the Youth Hockey Association and asked them to contact Live Barn to see if that can be amended to reflect those comments. We haven't heard back from them yet. I'd like to give them just a little bit more time to get some feedback on that. But there are some issues in there that the city attorney feels we need to address, and I agree with him on those items that he's outlined.
Okay, with no other information, I almost thought it was bringing in farm animals or something.
A
Gonna
way
get,
to raise money for
yeah.
the ice arena.
gotta have a petting zoo or,
That's good.
And I just want to say, I do want to keep the preliminary budget final review on there, because I do have some questions and comments that I want to bring up publicly.
To the amended motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now back to the original motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Let me see, what do we have? Staff reports.
Tim, if you don't mind, if you could do the council reports, I want to pull up a little video to show for the staff report, and it'll take me just a
Okay,
minute.
Suzanne.
I don't have anything that I've attended, but I will be attending the Airport Commission meeting, preliminary meeting on Wednesday, and if anybody has any issues, I know I've seen some on next door and the East Bethel pages, and there is a website that you can go to view what aircraft are flying and who's flying it and where it came from, where it's going. But if you have any questions, text or email me.
Brian?
Planning Commission meet is tomorrow night. I will be attending that. Last Monday, I attended the EDA meeting, and we had representatives from Midco in attendance, and we had at least an hour-long discussion, if not a bit longer, and it was a very good discussion. Some highlights of it is we went over current and planned projects that Midco is planning. One of the things that they are doing right now is talking about upgrading their existing grid. And with that, it's splitting nodes, which would update and increase speeds in the existing grids. And by 2028, they will hopefully, that's their goal, to just upgrading the existing grids. And you could ask me what splitting nodes is, but it's a technical term. It pretty much means that there's a center box and they have they bring in a better line and they can split that box up to feed more people with faster speeds. That's what I got out of it. The FCC is requesting all the service maps to be updated and released hopefully by the second quarter of 2023. This should give us a better idea of service areas where right now how it's measured is you have a certain grid, and if you have one address in there that gets a certain speed, it's deemed that that whole area is served. And this is going more address by address to get a better idea. And with that service map coming out, federal BEAD grants may be available to serve underserved areas.
What kind of grants are they like? Do they give any 50%? Nothing?
I'm not sure on that, Jack. Do you have a better idea?
You know, the grants currently are 50% match, so whatever we get from the county, we would have to match
Match
that.
up, okay.
50% with city funds. There would also probably be some discussions on how to recover those costs, whether it be through a petition, special assessment. There's been no real discussion on that. That's what we're gonna bring up at the work meeting though.
Okay.
Yeah, is that 50/50 applicable to this BEAD grant that they talked about?
That's correct. Both of them were 50/50.
Okay. So, with that, that's all I have.
Okay, Wanda?
I haven't had a parks meeting in a few months, so hopefully in September, we'll get that going. We didn't have any exciting things happening over the summer. But I would like to thank the city and thank our council members who attended the Meet the Candidates at the Farm, at Sharon Johnson's farm. We had lively discussion from our sheriff's candidates, from our county attorney candidates, and then, of course, our local Cal Bard, Julie Brasted, and who am I missing?
Emmer?
Oh, Emmer's
yeah,
office.
Yeah.
But it was well attended, and the chamber really appreciates the support. Thank you.
And I got a couple things. Last week we had a recap for Booster Days. I want to thank the Booster Day Committee. You know, those 5 individuals went above and beyond. I think they did an outstanding job. And next September 15th we're going to start planning for next year. So if anybody's interested, you know, if you want to volunteer, come and give us some ideas. I'll be here at City Hall at 6:30. So come on down. And with that, that's all I've got.
Jack?
Oh, you want to do your? Yeah.
Recently, the 181st Avenue overlay project was completed. This connects Highway 65 back to Jackson Street. The view you see, it's the building on the lower left is where Acapulco is. The center line of the road is the boundary between Ham Lake and East Bethel, with Ham Lake being to the left of the center line and East Bethel to the right. This was about an $800,000 project, and the cost was split by both localities. I'll just go through these quickly. This is a view from the opposite end. This is a view from the west looking east. This is where it intersects with Jackson Street. If any of you have been over that road, you can tell that this is a vast improvement, and it's built to urban sections. It's curb and guttered all the way, and it's a very successful project and showed what can happen when 2 localities cooperate with each other for mutual problems. We met with the city of Oak Grove, and we'll be undertaking a project on University Avenue in 2023 between Sims Road and 221st Avenue to do the same thing, to do a boundary street and cooperate together to get that solved and split the cost on it.
Great. Yeah, I've been on that road. It is a very well-constructed road.
Yep. I have too. They did a nice job
Yeah.
on that.
I agree, and university
Yeah.
definitely needs it too.
So that's all I have.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made, second, discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.